Disclaimer: these are my personal opinions, my own personal likings, and some history as to why I like what I like. I'm not arguing this list. I'm only expressing my overall love for the art and for the characters. This includes movies, comics, TV shows, etc. Enjoy.
Happy Halloween. What's going on, y'all? As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about my personal top 10 favorite comic book characters of all time. With also a little bit of honorable mentions. Please forgive the t-shirt. Sadly, this character in particular is not a part of my top 10 favorite comic books of all time, comic book characters of all time. Although, sadly, I do need to start reading some comic books from Transformers. Maybe I'll give it a review, because as you guys can see, if you're not doing it already, go follow my TikTok. I'll leave it in the description down below, as well as go follow me on Instagram. I'll also leave it in the description down below. But for starters, we're gonna go from the honorable mentions list, and then we'll be moving on to my top 10 list in general, starting from for the honorable mentions. I think it's about like five. Yes, about five. We're going to do lowest to highest, and as well as my top 10 all the way up to 1. So the first one on the list, hold on, give me a second here. It's lagging, and boom. Starting with the first one on my honorable mention, Thena from Eternals. Now, when it comes to Thena from Eternals, I'm just now learning about her. That's why she's my starter for my honorable mentions. When I first read Eternals, I think it was the one storyline when the Eternals found out, spoiler alert, when the Eternals found out that the mutants are actually descendants from deviants, which was a fucking crazy plot twist to me. The one character that really stood out to me in that story overall was Thena. I really did appreciate her whole entire arc when it comes to her pretty much falling in love with a deviant. Obviously knowing in the back of her head that it's not going to last forever, because unfortunately for deviants, unlike the Eternals, the deviants don't live forever. The deviants are immortal, like how the Eternals are. So I really did really love how her character was in that storyline in it itself, and her history with not only the deviants but her own personal history, with her being named reference to Athena, the goddess of wisdom. But when it comes to Eternals, she's more so like a warrior, honorable type of character. So just off of that alone, really got me interested in the Athena character herself, and I'm really am looking forward into reading other things surrounding Athena. So if you guys have any recommendations about Athena and the Eternals, and pretty much like her whole entire character arc, you guys have any recommendations on story arcs or issues, leave them down below. Moving on to spot number 2 in my honorable mentions is Matt Murdock's Daredevil. Now, Daredevil also, as you guys know by the disclaimer, all these characters in my honorable mentions and in my top 10 of all time, it's going to be including TV shows, anime shows, movies, comic books, and my own personal interest, my own personal connection with these characters. But saying all that, I say all that to pretty much let you guys know when it comes to Matt Murdock's Daredevil, I got hitched to him firstly with I always knew Daredevil was a Marvel character, but to go really in depth about Daredevil, that was a first for me when it came to the Netflix Daredevil TV show, which to me is if not one of the greatest comic book TV shows of all time. I really loved season 1. I thought season 2 was fantastic, and of course, watching season 3 was just, the icing on the cake for me when it came to the Daredevil character. But when it comes to Daredevil, this is a character I really respect. When it comes in the comic books, I know his interactions with Spider-Man, his interactions with the Defenders like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, etc., etc., and of course his ultimate villain, Wilson Fisk, who's a fucking gangster. But when it comes to Matt Murdock's Daredevil, the reason why he's not in the top 10 for me is because compared to the characters who are in my top 10, I know more about them on a much more character arc level versus Matt Murdock, who I mostly know from the Netflix TV show, if that makes sense. I'm still overall learning about Matt Murdock as a character when it comes to the comic books, but I just had to put him in my honorable mention because in my personal liking, I'm really into vigilantes. I really love vigilantes, and you guys are about to see what I mean when I reach into my top 10. But I love vigilantes, and I love like rulers, like kings. And Marvel to me has been the better overall when it comes to kings. But I would also say that DC has been the best when it comes to vigilantes. But when it comes to vigilantes, I had to put Daredevil up there in my honorable mentions. Moving on to spot number 3 is the mighty Thor, God of Thunder. Now, Thor I've been liking a lot more recently, but I picked up a huge story arc of the trade paperback of Thor, which is the reason why, just off of that story alone, it was the story when Ragnarok just happened and King Balder, who's a new king of Asgard, moved the Asgardians to Latveria with Doctor Doom, and Loki dealings with Mephisto and Hela, etc., etc. Like that whole story arc, Thor was the one who stood out the most to me. Thor specifically, not his secret identity, his other half, which I totally forgot his name. But Thor in general in that story arc was the one that really stood out to me, and I wasn't really expecting to like Thor that much. Compared to what I would assume. To be honest with you, they really do hoe Thor in the Marvel movies after reading that story, because obviously, you know, when you're dealing with a character that overpowering, they have to be nerfed at some level. But comic book Thor, you know, he has to be up there. I can't put him in my top 10 because, like I said earlier, of who is in my top 10, but he's right outside. He's literally right outside for me. I apologize. I had to let my cat in. But moving on to the next spot in my honorable mentions. The last spot in my honorable mentions is Absolute Wonder Woman. I don't care what you guys say. I get it. I'm new to this. I'm still a rookie. I'm still a freshman when it comes to my comic book journey. But Absolute Wonder Woman is the best solo series that's out right now. And this is coming from a self-proclaimed Wonder Woman hater. If you guys want to know why, if you guys want to understand my beef with the original Wonder Woman character, go back and watch my video on why I hate Wonder Woman. So, me putting Absolute Wonder Woman in my honorable mentions, and she's also, just like Thor, outside of my top 10 favorite characters of all time, says a lot when it comes to my beef with Wonder Woman herself. But Absolute Wonder Woman, the best solo series that's out right now. I don't care what you say, because when I picked up the first issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, I kid you not, she reminded me so much of Kratos, but the whole spin of her being raised in hell, her being the last Amazon, her pretty much relying on magic more compared to the original Wonder Woman, who's all hands, and the character shift of how she feels when it comes to her heritage, how she feels about her adopted mother, Cersei, and how she just approaches the battlefield, which is completely different from the original Wonder Woman in DC Comics. I just love this Wonder Woman. I mean, like, look at this picture, bro. You cannot tell me that's not badass. Just off of this is an actual cover of an issue, variant issue, but this is an actual cover of a comic book. You can't tell me that shit's not badass, bro. Her and that big ass sword, her and her undead Pegasus, the multiple robes or whips, where you want to call it, that she has, badass. And the fact that her eyes turn from bluish from her actual natural eyes to reddish when she's activating her demon magic, bro, that shit fucking hard. But she's not in my top 10. Moving on to my top 10 favorite characters of all time. Number 10, Magneto. Now, the reason why Magneto is right there at my top 10 is because when I first got introduced to Magneto was, again, the Marvel movies. Back when I was about maybe 12, 11, somewhere in that area. I really liked the backstory behind Magneto, of him coming from Jewish heritage, him coming from around the time the Holocaust was happening, him growing into his mutant powers, and him taking on this kind of Malcolm X type of role when it comes to saving mutants from the human race. And pretty much putting mutants at this high pedestal, being so pro-mutant to the point he crosses the line, which, when it comes to those type of stories, when you yourself believe you're actually the hero of your own story, but, there are some lines that you can't cross, but you do end up crossing because you believe in your heart how much what you're doing is right. Like, that type of shit really, hits home for me. And as you guys will see as I go down this list, I really do like, the darker side of characters, like the darker side of storytelling, to the point it gets so serious to where, people end up dying, etc., etc. So Magneto being in my top 10 was really a no-brainer. The only person I could really see him higher or even right there with them is the one who has the 9th place in my top 10, which is Doctor Doom. Again, when I first got introduced to Doctor Doom was, again, the Marvel movies. Now when it comes to Magneto, me watching X-Men Evolution, me watching X-Men 97, or even the older original X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, all those TV shows, all those animated movies from the X-Men. Same thing with Doctor Doom. I first got introduced to Doctor Doom when it comes to the movies, but when I started watching like shows like Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the original Fantastic Four show, the one that came out in the early 2000s, mid 2010s, like, I just started to grow. Doctor Doom really started to grow on me. Yes, he is a villain, but like I said earlier, I'm really into the darker side of storytelling. And when it comes to Doctor Doom, there's no other than Magneto, of course, there's no other dark story arc, backstory than Victor Von Doom. If you guys know anything about Victor Von Doom, if you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the whole backstory of Victor, pretty much his whole runnings with Mephisto when it comes to his mom being a witch and dying, and how she dies, and the reason why she became a witch, and why she sold her soul, freaking phenomenal. And Victor Von Doom combining science and magic to becoming this this ruler of his own land. Like I said, I love rulers and kings when it comes to comic books. Doctor Doom, especially Doctor Doom being my top 2, top 3 favorite villains of all time in fiction, he had to be in my top 10, bro. He had to be in my top 10. But he's not number 8. Him and Magneto can be switched between 9 and 10, but number 8 can't really be switched, and number 8 goes to Black Adam. Now, other than racial reasons, the reason why Black Adam is in my top 10 is because, yes, again, he is a villain, but when he taps into his hero role, aka him being the ruler of his own land, him putting his people first above everybody else, and of course his backstory with Shazam and how he got his powers. Again, it's right up there when it comes to storytelling for me. And him dealing with like the Egyptian gods and the Greek gods, like that was just a home run. And his runnings with him pretty much soloing the Justice League, that story arc was fire to me. His whole power set is fucking flames. I was slightly disappointed to how Dwayne The Rock Johnson portrayed him in the movie, because to him, I thought he was a great Black Adam. It's just the movie was just kind of decent for me. I enjoyed it. It's just, when it comes to DC and Warner Brothers, that's a whole video in itself. But Black Adam had to be in my top 10, bro. Had to be in my top 10. Number 7. This is where we start crossing into personal territory. Number 7 is Remy LeBeau, Gambit. I can't begin to tell you how dope and how cool I thought Gambit was when I was a little ass kid, bro. Watching him in X-Men, the original X-Men series, watching him in Wolverine the X-Men, watching him when it comes to his interactions with the Avengers, his relationship with Rogue, his relationship with Rogue, and just his overall comedic character, like him with the fucking jacket, him with a big ass stick, throwing cards and shit. Come on, bro. Remy LeBeau is fucking flames. Like, Gambit was just one of those characters to where I just thought he was just fucking cool. And he was one of the first characters I really wanted to be as a fucking kid. When it comes to his powers, I would say his powers isn't really so much on people's first choice if they decided what superpower they would have, but just a simple fact that he throws powerful cards was fucking fire to me. So when it comes to Remy LeBeau, and of course his backstory of him with the mob bosses, and of course when it comes to mutants, they had to go through traumatizing experience to really activate the mutant powers. When it comes to Gambit, that shit was flames. When it comes to storytelling, and again, my liking into vigilantes, even though he's not really considered a vigilante, he is to me still considered a street level character. Just Gambit's cool as shit, dude. It just is what it is. Now we start getting into the territory of top 6, top 5. This person in my number 6 spot can't be argued, especially with the characters that's below him. A good solid 6 is really the perfect spot for him, especially who's in my top 5. But in my number 6 spot, T'Challa's Black Panther. Again, removing the racial reasons out the equation. T'Challa's Black Panther, again, vigilante, street tier character, and he's a king and a ruler in his own nation. How, as a black man, how can you not like this nigga? Like, when it comes to Black Panther, what is there not to like? And I've always liked him as a comic book character, but when the movie came out, really elevated my likeness. And when I started my comic journey and started reading up more about him, especially that storyline of I think it's called Black Panther: A Nation Underwater or something like that. Just the T'Challa, the T'Challa, I can't speak English. The T'Challa character in himself is just something I can really relate to, especially when it comes to the African perspective of the character, the roots of Wakanda, ancestral powers, etc., etc. That just speaks home for me. And of course, the character being black, I can familiarize with that. He had to be in my number 6. I do love Black Panther more than I love Gambit. Magneto, and Black Adam. So he had to be in my top 6. The only reason why he's not in my top 5 is because who's in my number 5 spot. And my number 5 spot, Jason Todd's Red Hood. Jason Todd Red Hood story arc, backstory is the most depressing fucking backstory I've ever read and I've ever seen in fiction, period. Argue with your mama. I probably wouldn't say Jason Todd is my favorite Robin, but I wouldn't argue for some people who has him up there as their favorite Robin and the best Robin. But again, going back to my likings when it comes to vigilantes, check. The jacket, check. The whole costume attire, check. And of course, one of my favorite colors being red. Check, check, check. Jason Todd's Red Hood, I can't really relate to him, obviously. But his whole aura, his whole, badassery, his whole, him pretty much staying on the quiet side and him being a little bit more of a darker character, that really does speak volumes into my own personality, especially at the age that I was at and all the personal shit that I was going through. Jason Todd was really one of those Batman characters that really did it for me and really created the inner peace within the inner peace within myself of just turning my brain off and just enjoying the ride. Batman Under the Red Hood is probably one of my favorite Batman story arcs of all time. And Jason Todd being the main focus of that story just took it home for me. But he's not in my number 4 spot. That spot belongs to Dick Grayson's Nightwing. What can I not say about Dick Grayson? The man's funny as shit. He's relatable as fuck. He's honorable. He's open. He's compassionate about others. He's pretty much everything good about Bruce Wayne Batman. Without, the traumatic experience. Nightwing, Dick Grayson is pretty much who what Batman Bruce Wayne should have been. Versus, him going on a much more darker path and dealing with his trauma. Dick Grayson is pretty much the character that reminds me to pretty much smile through it all, joke through it all, because at the end of the day, no matter what you've gone through, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And that's who Dick Grayson is to me. I love reading his stories, especially that one storyline when he became a billionaire. Just the whole Dick Grayson character was just, he's really an angel on my shoulder to where Jason Todd is the devil on my shoulder. And, I can't wait. I really have to find a comic book to where both of them are together, to where they're having like a brother, good cop, bad cop type of story arc. If you guys have any suggestions, put them down below. He's not in my top 3 though. My number 3 spot goes to Wolverine. Logan, Jimmy, James, whoever the fuck you want to call him. Wolverine, when it comes to anti-heroes, when it comes to street level characters, when it comes to vigilantes, when it comes to the darker side of storytelling, when it comes to a really good backstory, it cannot get no better than Wolverine. Now, to be fair, my loving for Wolverine really started with my brother because he grew up off of that X-Men 97 shit, which brushed over to me. And of course, adding in the Hugh Jackman Wolverine when it comes to the X-Men movies and Marvel movies in general. All the X-Men animated TV shows, Wolverine just does it for me. What's up, bub? Like, come on now. Wolverine with the fucking Wolverine, the 3 claws and his runnings with Mystique, Magneto, the X-Men, Jean Grey, the motorcycle solo dolo Wolverine, his beef with Sabretooth. Wolverine is just that nigga, bro. He's a 5 foot below real nigga. Like, what can I say about Wolverine? Wolverine, when it comes to just like the Jason Todd character, I think Wolverine has also one of the best fleshed out character development when it comes to him living for the amount of years that he lived, all those years living and just going through history, to the present of his entering the X-Men, his whole runnings with the Hulk, etc., etc. Wolverine was just, out of all the characters in the X-Men other than Gambit, Wolverine was probably my favorite character of all time. He became one of my favorite characters of all time. And the movies and the TV shows just did it for me. Now, moving on to my second spot, The Incredible Hulk. The person, the character that really started it all when it comes to my comic book journey. The very first comic book story event that I've gone through from beginning to end was the World War Hulk storyline. That was the story that really got me into comic books. That was the story that got me into learning other characters like Storm, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Sentry, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, Thanos, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, all that good shit. That fight, I cannot speak about World War Hulk without talking about this fight. That fight, when Hulk went up against the X-Men, greatest fight scene in a comic book I've ever fucking seen. The fact that this nigga grabbed Wolverine and started beating his ass, fire. The way how he outsmarted Juggernaut, fire. The way how he showed mercy to Charles Xavier, especially after finding out how many people the X-Men already lost, fire. His fight with Sentry, fire. His fight with Iron Man and the Fantastic Four, fire. His Warbound, fire. And when it comes to Hulk and, Bruce Banner's trauma, when it comes to anger management, as a youngin who also dealt with taking everything personal and overthinking things, and also had a side of anger management on my end, the Incredible Hulk / Bruce Banner is probably the one out of the few characters I can really, really relate to out of fiction. The whole storyline of having control of your anger and making your own superpower, that really spoke home to me. His whole trauma between his dad and his mom, and what his dad did to his mom, also spoke to me. Bruce Banner's loner journey when it comes to tapping into the powers of the Hulk, aka tapping into his trauma, also spoke home to me. So that's why he's in my top 2. My all-time favorite comic book character. I'm going to catch so much flack for this. Bruce Wayne's Batman. Argue with your fucking mama. I love this fucking character. From ever since I was a fucking child. From the movies to all the animated TV shows, the comic books, all the fan-made shit that came out in YouTube years ago. I like everything about Batman. Vigilante, billionaire playboy, dark backstory, trauma, coming back from getting his ass whooped, contingency plans, the dark side of comic books. I love everything that there is about Bruce Wayne's Batman. Argue with your fucking mama. And when it comes to the toxicness in the comic book community, I hear so much hate on Batman about like how he takes in orphans to become fucking crime fighters, even though they literally created a whole fucking Bat family. I understand the whole, what's the word I'm looking for? I understand the whole contradictions when it comes to his no kill rule. I understand all of that. I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, guys, these are fictional characters. You like what you like. I like what I like. The whole, power scaling, that's not my field. And even if it does become my field, I will never be one of those people that tries to paint myself as I know everything. Because I don't know everything. Just like in life, we don't know everything and we will never know everything. That's the whole purpose of living life, guys. But going back to Batman, that's a whole video in itself. But going back to Batman, Batman was one of those characters that I just latched onto the second I was even consciously aware of what the fuck I was watching. Batman Bruce Wayne is probably my favorite comic book fictional character of all time. He's over Darth Vader. He's over Optimus Prime. Respect to Optimus Prime. He's over Caesar. He's over Superman. He's over Spider-Man. He's even over Wolverine. Every single character I have in my top 10 in my honorable mentions is Batman. It will always be Batman, 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 Batman. I want his car. I want his money. I want everything this nigga got. But that's pretty much. I'm also gonna make a video really tapping into why I love Batman or why we love Batman, something like that. So be on the lookout for that. But that's all I have for you guys today. Those are my top 10 favorite comic book characters of all time with honorable mentions: Athena, Daredevil, Thor, Absolute Wonder Woman. Number 10, Magneto. Number 9, Doctor Doom. Number 8, Black Adam. Number 7, Gambit. 6, Black Panther. 5, Red Hood. 4, Nightwing. 3, Wolverine. 2, the Hulk. 1, Batman. I'll leave all my information to my TikTok and my Instagram down below. Go ahead and follow me. If you disagree with any of these points that I gave you guys when it comes to my likings of these characters, go ahead and shoot me a DM or even shoot me a comment down below. Be on the lookout for my Batman video. And also, I have a new project coming out, something very, very similar to my last project, Left versus Right. I won't tell you the title for right now because I might give away spoilers. Also, be on the lookout on my Instagram because I may be dropping a few hints to that project in itself. But that's all I have for you guys today. Y'all take care and take it easy.